But first, joining us now, member of both the Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees, Democratic Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin of Michigan. And I know you're rolling out, you're co-sponsoring a massive health care bill today, and I want to talk to you about that. But first, I'd like to play for you a moment from the Alabama State Legislature as they were debating the bill and the news that we've been discussing all morning. And then we'll try and translate. Take a look.
Does the bill make exception for patients who are victim of rape? And of course, I kind of know the answer. Can you tell me why it doesn't?
It allows for anything that's available today is still available up until that woman knows she's pregnant. So there's a window of time. Some say 7 days, some say 10. There's a window of time that every option that's on the table now is still available. So she has to take a pregnancy test. She has to do something to know whether she's pregnant or not. You can't know that immediately. It takes some time for all those chromosomes and all that you mentioned.
What happens?
It doesn't happen immediately.
Well, I feel educated about apparently how a woman's body works. What's your response, not only to what's happening in the state of Alabama, but to that conversation specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone feels good about that conversation. And the idea that an 11-year-old who is raped can't get an abortion is just, it's pretty hard to understand that in any context. Obviously, this issue is extremely polarizing. Obviously, other states are now, like mine, are now looking at similar type laws. And I just, for me, it's difficult to watch something like that, to be honest. I don't believe that big government has any role in governing what we do with our bodies. And that was a bit painful, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems to me that we need more women to run on all levels of legislature, state, local, federal. So let's move on. You have a massive health care bill that you're rolling out today. You're co-sponsoring it. Please tell us about it.
Sure. So it's actually a package of 6 bills, and it's aimed at a bunch of things that, frankly, I hear about every single day in my district. So the price of pharmaceuticals, making it easier for generics to come to market, and then dealing with some of the state's issues on the ACA, making it easier for them to adjust their markets so that it's cheaper for people to have, an ACA and a healthcare account. So it's a great package of bills, and it fits into a story that I think sometimes gets lost, which is here in the House, we are constantly playing defense on constant attempts to undercut the ACA. Right? It's like whether it's legislation or it's, cases that the administration is filing, there's a constant attempt to sabotage. And it's like people haven't noticed up here that the United States has moved on, right? We believe that if you get sick, you should not go bankrupt. And if you happen to have a pre-existing condition, you shouldn't be gouged your entire life. Those two concepts, wherever you are in the political spectrum, people tend to agree with now. And I think by the other side of the aisle, the administration has not quite caught on to that. And this is a group of bills aimed at fighting back against the sabotage.
Between this set of bills and your expertise, it really runs the gamut between respect for the rule of law and also for the needs of the American people that you're trying to accomplish here. So what do you make of what William Barr is trying to do to health care? Is that more important than what he did with the Mueller report?
So I will tell you that, I know there's a ton of focus in Washington on the Mueller report, and I think it's important. We need to provide checks and balances. But the thing that I get pulled aside at the grocery store about every single time I go is the price of healthcare and the price of prescription drugs. Literally women clutching my arms telling me that they can't afford their child's insulin. So the decision by Barr not to defend the ACA and to actually go ahead and try and legally invalidate the entire thing, I just think it's deeply wrongheaded, a failure of responsibility, and just is completely tone deaf with what's going on the ground in America.
Congresswoman, it's Willie Geist. I want to ask you about Iran. You, of course, a former CIA analyst and Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security. A lot of people are concerned about what they're seeing right now, given the experience we've had in this country with wars in the last 20 years, over the last generation. Are you concerned, as someone who has studied Iran and has studied the world, with the moves being made by this administration and the rhetoric coming from this administration toward Iran?
Yeah, so, to me, I feel like many of us have seen this movie before, and it's extremely important to be judicious about this whole thing. And what it feels like to me is that there's a lot of saber rattling going on. The administration is ratcheting things up. Iran is making counter moves, which are disturbing, and it just is like a spiral of escalation that leads to nowhere good. And I think if you're going to go ahead and saber rattle like that, you better have a plan, you better have a strategy. The fact that our allies, very vocally, for the first time in my entire experience working on Iraq, our allies, the Brits, have come out and said they don't see the threat, they disagree with us. The deputy commander of our efforts in Iraq, the Brit, said that. I've never seen that. And what happens is, when there's all this saber rattling, sometimes you can get into an intentional war, sometimes it can be completely unintentional, right? There is a crowded space there in the Persian Gulf, and we could be walking into an incident that I think is very, very dangerous. And I think the administration, I think they need to remember that they do not have authorization to go to war with Iran. We have a constitution that requires that they come back to Congress, just like Bush did when he went to Iraq. We need to see the underlying intelligence. There is, I think, a deep concern among national security professionals on where this is headed.
Well, you anticipated my next question. I think I know now the answer, which is, do you believe the 2001 authorization of use of military force after 9/11 to go to war with Afghanistan covers a war with Iran?
It absolutely does not. I want to be clear, and you can check with every legal scholar out there. It's about al-Qaeda and who attacked us and al-Qaeda affiliates later on when we amended it. There is absolutely no way the authorization of military force covers Iran, to be very clear.
All right, Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin, thank you very much for being on the show this morning. Come back.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.